Good morning, good afternoon to my, good evening to my dear friends. Good evening to my dear friends. Today I am going to take up another T.S. Eliot's famous poem, that is the love song of J. Alfred Prufrock. And this is a typical T.S. Eliot's poem. You know that where it talks about uh, you know that certain issues, that is the that is the that is the failure to express his feeling. That is another point, right? This is, as I told you, that most of T.S. Eliot's work, they are typical modernist. So this poem, as I told you, this uses what we call stream of consciousness technique. Stream of consciousness technique. That is another issue. And then you have that you find the first things, and there are so many imagery. In fact, there is a proof. See that most of T.S. Eliot's poem opens with certain Greek and Latin words. So its opening lines also has the connotation of Dante Alighieri's Inferno Paradiso. And as T.S. Eliot very beautifully, he acknowledges the influence of Dante. He credits Dante to be the greatest poet of English, of literature. Now, if you read this poem, you find that this is a dramatic monologue, and this dramatic monologue that starts with Robert Browning, and this was published in 1917. If you see that, 1917, and this poem could be referred as, I mean, the longing for love, the sexual frustration, we could say, emasculation, impotence, eunuch. This is that is modern sensibility, that how a person cannot express his love. And here are allusion, right? Allusion of basically Prince Hamlet. If you read Hamlet, there is a line in Hamlet that "Faulty thy name is human." You see, this is very that if you read, there is a, in Hamlet, Hamlet says to Ophelia that go and become a nunnery, and Faulty thy name is woman. He says the name of woman, your name is frailty, which means that you are frail, you are weak. To some extent, this is typical modernist tendency, that that the modern man is not able to express his love, express his desire. This is called commodification of human life, and he cannot take action also, he cannot express feeling. And this is another technique of stream of consciousness technique. And therefore William James says that the world of modern life is not the world of this is the world of what we call inner and depth analysis. That's what T.S. Eliot also says. And illusion, as I told you, that it is the greatest technique that T.S. Eliot has adopted, not only in this poem but his magnum opus, The Wasteland, where the poem itself starts with April is the coolest month of breathing. And in this poem also there is the illusion of French symbolist Laforge. You have Dante, you have William Shakespeare's Henry the Fourth, and then you have Hamlet, and so on and so forth. As you know that this poem was published in 1917, and uh, Again, Prufrock and other observation. That was his poem in 1917. And then you have Ezra Pound. He dedicated this poem to Ezra Pound because Ezra Pound was contemporary to T.S. Eliot, and Ezra Pound has that he has coined certain poems, and then you have he has written other poems like the Portrait of Lady. It was published in Egoist periodical. Egoist, because see, John Keats, T.S. Eliot is a multi-dimensional figure. So this is called the Egoist, where it was published in the Egoist. And then you had Egoist periodicals in 1917, right? And then you have Virgil and so many differences. But when we read this poem, let's go then you and I. He says that let's go then you and I. That is there. That this is very important. Uh, that let's go. Uh, then you and I. When the evening is spread out against the sky. You see, there is a romantic tendency also. This is a very romantic tendency. There is a romantic tendency. So then says, let's go, then you and I. When the evening is spread out against the sky, like a peasant etherized upon a table. Now, that is very important thing. What is peasant? Etherized upon a table. What is table? What is the significance of a peasant? Means all modern persons, they are like peasant. There is a book by Eric Fromm. It is called the Sane Society. There is a book by Eric Fromm, ERICFROMM. Eric Fromm, and the book is called what we call Sane Society. The Sane Society, and then there is also a book by Michel Foucault, that Civilization and Madness and Civilization. You see, this is the tendency of modern life, that to some extent we are like mad. You have read in class 12th, there is a lesson called the third level, right? That is completely psychological. And this is the problem of human life, that we are like peasantized weight. So the nature is also like peasantized weight. Nature is not so beautiful. See that if you want to express our love, normally we go near the lake. That for example, you read so many love poems like To Celia by John Donne, and because English literature is highly concerned with what we call this love theme. It is always there. Love is obvious because Shakespeare's plays, most of them they deal with the issue of love. His love tragedy, Antony and Cleopatra, and then his sonnet like "Let me not marriage the true minds," very beautiful sonnet. But when we study the literature about 20th century, we find certain changes, and the changes are like the frustration of love, like we are times eunuch. J.M. Hopkins, he has written a poem called "Thou Indeed Just Lord." This is a prayer where he says that modern man, we are like times eunuch, we are like imposter. You know, we are like LGBT. We don't have sexual capacity, right? That our power of expressing love, our sexual power is completely finished. It is completely diminished because of certain changes. And this is not the problem of this play. Read 20th century literature like Lord Jim, Heart of Darkness, or most of D.H. Lawrence's novel. If you read D.H. Lawrence's novel like The Rainbow, Women in Love, Lady Chatterley's Lover. And as I told you that you see that let me tell you to some extent a very interesting fact, that when we read modern literature, what do you find in modern literature? We find that this power of sexual, I mean, this sexuality became the core subject, and this is true also. You see, sex is something that not be treated as taboo, and this is what D.H. Lawrence says in one of his novels. Maybe it is Lady Chatterley's Lover or some other novels, where he says that our sex is like dynamo. This sexual capacity is like dynamo, and that's why he says that it is our sexual integrity that decides whether we are disintegrated or integrated. That is another issue for D.H. Lawrence. And then not only D.H. Lawrence, but if you read the Harold Pinter's play, one of the best plays, that is The Homecoming. I like this. His other plays are also of great importance. Birthday Party, Caretaker. Here Ruth becomes victorious because of her sexual capacity. She dominates entire family. She has a capacity to offer sex, and all the families, they are like barren. So what happened to certain life? What is happening about intellectual life? This is the biggest problem that most of the 20th century writer is thinking, that what is all about intellectual mind, where is the capacity of our intellectual genius, this originality and genius. There is the crux of what we call this modern literature, right? So that is what I want to tell you, right? So what he says that let's go then you and I, when the evening is displayed out against the sky like a peasant etherized upon a table. Now this is one of the best imagery that you find in this play, that in this work, like a peasant etherized upon a table. Now which types of bed? Like a peasant, our condition is like a peasant, and we are here like a pithrized, like a, that, like a, what we call, like a peasant etherized upon a table. Let's go through certain half deserted streets, the muttering retreats of restless nights in one night cheap hotels, another modernity. And this is the biggest T.S. Eliot's technique in the text, like tradition and modernity, tradition and individual talent. And then he says that of restless nights in one night cheap hotels and sawdust restaurants with oyster shells, streets that follow like a tedious argument of insidious intent to lead you to an overwhelming question. Oh, do not ask what is it, let's go and make our visit. you know this is so question, that are we able to express our love. That is another, that is the problem. And this is what she says, that do not ask what is it, let us go and make our visit. So don't ask, don't question, let's go. And so who is the narrator here? We don't know. This is a no narrator. This is the problem of modern man. This poem typifies modernist sensibility, that modern lover, that person could be lover, and lover wants to go with his bilbet to make love. Let's go, you and I, to somewhere to celebrate our love, to express our love. Like there is a poem, very famous poem by W.B. Yeats, that is called "Let's Go, You and I." The lake I love finish free. We will go and we will celebrate our life. And so that's what he says, that make our visit. And then she says, in the room the women come and go, talking of Michelangelo. Now Michelangelo is Michelangelo is another uh, famous characters who was a Renaissance painter, talking of Michelangelo. So then she says that in the room the woman come and go, talking of Michelangelo means the yellow fog that rubs its back upon the window panes. Yellow fog, like all the life is like dust. So the yellow fog that rubs its back upon the window panes The yellow smoke that rubs its muzzle on the window panes, licked its tongue into the corners of the awning, lingered upon the pools that stand in drains, let fall upon its back the soot that falls from chimneys, slipped by the terrace, made a sudden leap, and seeing that it was a soft October night, curled once about the house and fell asleep. Now, all sordid imagery like the wasteland. There is imposter, lack of expressing love. And then she says that, and indeed there will be time for the yellow smoke that slides along the street, rubbing its back upon the window panes. There will be time to prepare a face to meet the faces that you meet. There will be time to murder and create, and time for all the works and days of hands that lift and drop a question on, that a question on your plate. Time for you. There will be time to prepare a face to meet the faces that you meet. There will be time to murder and create, and time for all the works. And time for all the works and days of hands that lift and drop a question on your plate. Time for you and time for me. And time yet for 100 indecisions and for 100 visions and revisions before the taking of toast and tea. So, T.S. Eliot had this imagery, toast and tea. Another thing is this, like murder and create, like there will be window panes. In the room, the woman come and go, talking of Michelangelo. So again, woman come and go, talking of Michelangelo. It means they are talking about a Renaissance artist, but they could not express their love. So artifice of eternity is not possible in T.S. Eliot's poem, as it was possible in W.B. Yeats' Sailing to Byzantium. Hmm? And then there is a very famous line. The famous line is that, and indeed there will be time, because T.S. Eliot's basic question is about time, and indeed there will be time to wonder, do I dare and do I err? Time to turn back and descend the stair with a bald spot in the middle of my hair. They will say, how is your is growing thin? So do I dare? Do I dare? He's questioning, do I have courage? Do I dare? Do I have courage to express our feeling? My morning coat, my collar mounting firmly to the chin, my necktie rich and modest, but asserted by a simple pin. They will say, but how his arms and legs are thin. Do I dare disturb the universe? In a minute there is time for decisions and revisions, which is a minute will reverse. So do I have capacity to disturb the universe? Can we disturb the universe? Right? So what is the problem? This entire poem, as I told you, that this poem is all about the disturbance of humanity. To some extent, the humanity is disturbed. But how this humanity is disturbed? That is another question. That do I disturb the universe? In a minute there is time, for I have known them all, already known them all. So many questions. If you want to, in the expression of love, our desire, there are so many questions. This is the problem of modern man, that we cannot express our love, right? There are so many questions we are questioning, that can I do this, can I do this, do I assert or this or not. And then he says that for decisions and revisions which a minute will reverse, for I have known them all, already known them all, I have known the evening, morning, afternoons. Let's say that noon, afternoon, and morning, evening, etc. And do I disturb the I have measured out my life with coffee spoons. See, if you read in him, you know, एक प्रोफेसर थे हमारे, his name was Professor Amar Singh. Professor Amar Singh sir, great intellectual of Allahabad University. While I was working with him, once he told me कि टी.एस. एलियट ने इंटेलेक्चुअल लिया और मजाक और पॉपुलर बन गया, राइट. दिस इज इंटरेस्टिंग पॉइंट कि उसने इंटेलेक्चुअल लिया और पॉपुलर बन गया. सो सी द इमेज ऑफ मॉडर्निटी की वो कहता आई हैव मेजर्ड आउट माय लाइफ विद कॉफी स्पून्स, आई नो द वॉइसेस with dying fall beneath the music from a farther room, so how should I presume. So just I gave you the introduction of the poem, that this poem is about the modernist sensibility, the question of not expressing love, the modern question of what we call this birat, this bravery, this personality, integration of personality. And there is some sensibility of what we call this modernist thought, that is how we have measured my life with coffee spoon. So with that I stop here. In my next video I will go on ahead. सुनील कैसे बैच बने बंद कर दिए, बैच बनेगा देखो.